Hey everybody, this is Mr. Mike's Art, and I am Mr. Mike. Welcome to my channel. Hopefully I can entertain you with some drawings. I'm hoping that's why you found my channel. We can do some drawings, some inks. We can play with art, talk about art, have some fun, and maybe grow. Hopefully I can give you some tips, or you can just enjoy what I do. And please let me know in the comments if you have any ideas on things you would like to see me draw. We can draw together. You can draw while I'm filming me drawing. We can have some fun. Let's do that. Let's just have some fun with art. And gonna let you get on to the video. Y'all take care. Hey there, everybody. So, if you've watched my previous video on pencils, you'll see something. So, unfortunately, I didn't realize when I was filming that the 4H can actually pick up. The 4H pencil, it might look like somehow I'm tracing or something, but it's not. I'm going over my 4H shadow lines. So I very softly went across this thing and created the outline of a shark with the 4H and created some reference points for myself too as well. And then I'm coming back, and if I'm correct, I believe I'm using a H, which is above a 4H. And I'm just going back over the lines that I feel are critical for me to be able to see better. And when you're drawing, first let me say I apologize. I know now that even though when I was filming it looked like it could not be seen, it actually could be seen. So I'll include when I do my 4H stuff, I will include that in the future. So you just see I'm kind of going in and making lines, and it doesn't look like a lot's going on, but uh, right here where I'm going across, that's the actual lateral line of a shark. The lateral line is every fish has one. A bass, uh, if it's a fish, it has a lateral line, and some of y'all might remember from biology that's one of their main sensory things come off of. That's where they detect vibration, all sorts of stuff. But it's also a physical line that runs on the fish, whether it's a shark or what. Most of them have it, and it kind of follows the tail, and then when it gets near the guts and the belly, it will round up usually and go above the rib cage. Uh, and if you look when I'm doing some of my pre-shadow shading here, I'm not worried about that being perfect. I'm not worried about uh, filling it in completely. It's not necessary. Right now, I'm just kind of getting back into the gills and the below the lateral line on a lot of these sharks will be where it goes from gray to belly. And so that's always an uneven area. And then even if you look at that eye, further toward the front, you'll see a little, it's almost like a nostril. And I don't know what they call it on shark, but that's kind of how they detect a lot of, it's like their sense of smell, even though they don't breathe through that, to the best of my knowledge. Uh, I hope y'all like sharks as much as I do. I've always loved sharks and had a healthy fear of sharks in the sense that, hey, they're the king of the water. I'll let them have it. Short of an orca, they're the king of the water. But nonetheless, just look at my lines. Don't get real critical on trying to shade at this point. Don't try to make it a complete work, because as you increase your pencils, as you go darker with your pencils, they are going to start filling in some of those holes for you, some of those gaps. So don't worry about trying to make this out the gate perfect, because it doesn't need to be. You don't want to scar the paper, and believe it or not, these H pencils, they will scar the paper. So you want to be gentle. You want to have a soft touch. And as you progress through these pencils, it is going to fill in those spots. And then you can always blend with your finger. If you want to blend, if you want a more sketchy style, then purposely create direction using those pencil strokes. Uh, but anyways, you're just playing, you're just having fun. And when you're doing these sharks, have a reference photo. I'm using a reference photo. That's what you do. Uh, I'm not going to put that photo on screen because it's not my photo. I'm not swimming with sharks, let me tell you. I've wade fished and had sharks around me. Uh, you know, it is what it is. Most people will encounter a shark and will never know it. Uh, I've had one, what I believe was one, hit me one time that had to be 4 or 5 feet long because it touched the girl in front of me. I didn't say anything as I felt it brush against my leg, but the exact point in time where it brushed on my leg, the girl I had just thrown about 4 feet away from me pulled her feet up and went, ah, because it touched her too. And then it kept going. And I turned around and I could see from the beach. We were at Crystal Beach in Texas, so it's shallow way out there. We were probably a couple 100 yards off the bank, off the shore, but we were only in chest deep water. And my brother was at the bank. My little brother, he was very young, and I could hear him cussing, and I didn't know why he was cussing until I turned around after that shark touched us. I turned around, and you could see the wake where it had started about halfway from him and just came in a straight line toward us, out of curiosity because of the splashing and everything. But it got up next to us and realized we weren't what it wanted, so it left us alone, thankfully. But anyways, most people will have sharks near them, and because of the color of the water and the darkness, they'll never see it. They'll never know it was there. But if you look, you see all these little circles I'm doing. I tend to do circles when I shade. But you see, there's a whole bunch of stuff that isn't done. There's a whole bunch of gaps. These pencils will fill that in. And then also, when you start to go darker, again, don't try to overfill, because you can come back with a lesser pencil and spread that darker pencil. So I'll take this minute for anybody that hasn't watched my pencil video, and I'll just go over that real quick. Usually when I'm drawing, and I'll start off with a 4H, and because you're barely touching the paper, so it's easy to erase. You should never be drawing so hard that it can't easily be erased. You should not be tearing up the paper trying to erase. It shouldn't take a lot of work. You're pressing too hard if that's the case. Okay. There might be a time and place where you want to press hard, but for the most part, you're not. You're just doing it. So the way these pencils work is, the harder they are, the less of that graphite actually comes out and goes onto the paper. The softer the graphite, the darker it becomes, and the easier it gets on there because it's soft. So the B's are soft and the H's are hard. That's the best way to think about it, is B's are soft and H's are hard. You don't need every gradation of pencil. You really don't. I probably only use 3. I'll go from a 4H to an H to a HB or to a 2B, and then I'll jump up to like a 4B or a 6B. And that's, for most of us, that's all we need. I grew up with almost all of my drawing being done with a number 2 pencil that I had in school. And I would work my butt off trying to get the darkest dark out of that 2B. And it would always, without a doubt, it would always gray out. No matter how hard I pushed it down, no matter how much I filled it in, it could not get as dark as, say, a 6B or the beloved ebony. Every artist, when they're at some point finds an ebony and it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe a pencil can get this dark. And so we fall in love with ebonies, and then we just use ebonies until we're blue in the face, and probably didn't do that good of work with it because it's an ebony. But think about these pencils as a gradation scale. And so when you see these artists talking about doing a face or something, and they're doing all of these shapes, and which I use shapes too, but I don't do what some of these artists do. Uh, Whether that's better or worse, that's for others to decide. Uh, but they'll sit there and they'll do the midline in the face, the eye line across the face, the nose, the mouth. That's fine. But if you're doing that, you're hopefully doing that with the 4H, or even a lighter pencil, or a non-photo blue. I don't use non-photo blues anymore. Most of the cameras can see the non-photo nowadays. Uh, so back to that. There's If you're doing any of that cross lines or making boxes for the chest and cylinders for the arms and all that stuff, you're doing it with the 4H, where it can be easily erased when you come across it with another. Or if you're going to shade to the point, if you're going to shade to the point that everything's pretty much covered, it doesn't matter. But that's why you would use a 4H, is so when you come back with a 2B, the 2B just covers up all those lines. And then you come back with an eraser if you want, and you lighten areas. But that's a tough way to shade. Always start light and go dark. Try not to ever start dark and go light. That's just what I would advise you, because it's easier to go dark than it is to try to make something light again. And one of the things is these hard pencils, when you do them, they will leave grooves in the paper. And so when you go to erase, you can still see where that pencil was, and all that graphite hides in that groove, and now you've got a line on your paper that you didn't want. Trying to think if there's a story I can tell you or something real quick. I'll think about that, and we'll see what we can do. I'll try to remember in the next time to have a good joke for you or something like that. But anyways, you see, I'm going back over, and I believe I made some notes in here. I tried to throw, when I changed pencils, at least in a couple spots, I made a little note on the paper so you could see it, because this camera was not. There you go. This is all 2B work right here. I wanted to make some notes because I knew I wasn't recording audio. I had to come later with audio. But what I hope y'all are having fun doing this, and I hope that this helps you understand how to draw a shark. There's some other tricks of the trade I can cover in some other videos, but at the end of the day, you got to learn to be able to reproduce what you see in front of you. The basic outline, the basic shape, and that just takes time. It takes time, and there's no way around that. There's cheat codes, like using a glass light table or something like that. But hopefully you're not using a photo. When I use a light table, it's because I've already hand drawn something, and I'm trying to rework it or change something or create something. And I don't feel like trying to hand graph out where everything is again, especially with my inks, or even my sketchbooks. When I'm doing sketches, I'm doing a ton of doodles. So when I do those doodles, I may decide one or two doodles is the ones I want to keep, and I'll go from there. So what I'll do is I'll take that doodle and I will reproduce it on like copy paper, because it's so thin. And then I can take that and I can arrange things on together and figure out where I kind of want things. And then I can use a light table and try to put those lines in the exact same place they were before. And that way, it also gives me a chance. If I don't like where something is, I can put it in a new spot. So, but that's my inking process. I don't do that all the time. But when I'm really trying to refine, that's where a light table or something comes in. And you can take at that point, you take a 4H and you're just going back over the lines where they were. And then you come back with your ink or your dark pencil. And then you go over those 4H lines. And for the purpose of this drawing, the edge of the shark is outlined. But if I was wanting to make this a complete drawing, where his white belly is, I would have shaded the background. And on his upper back line, I would have shaded that too because his back is highlighted. But I would have shaded it to make his white stand out on that paper. Because when you have all that white paper, white doesn't look white compared to it. But if you can make the background just a little shaded, just an off-white, it makes any of your highlights stand out. But that's about as much as I can really say about what I'm doing. You're just watching the process. I really would appreciate it if you'd watch this to the end. And on any of my videos, it is very much appreciated if you start to watch them, that you would commit to watching them to the end. And the reason I say that is because the YouTube algorithm promotes videos that get watched all the way through. When you start getting videos that where somebody watches it a minute into a 10-minute video, they punish us by not showing that video as much because they don't think it's having retention. So I hope you enjoy this. You see, I switched to a 6B at one point, and I will jump back to some other pencils. But I'm not going to talk your ear off anymore. I think I've blasted you out for a while now. And so I'm going to leave that to you guys and let you just enjoy this in quiet and enjoy watching me just shade this shark out. And just watch. I'm just going to keep going back over the same spots, and I'm going to get darker and darker. And again, there's some other things you can do too with these drawings to make them better, to where they come out better. And I know it looks rough right now, but just stick around and just enjoy. Have some fun. Try to watch some Bob Ross every now and then. The guy will put you in a happy place, right? So anyways, check me out for more videos, and please like and comment. Even the trolls. Hey, you trolls out there, anybody that wants to troll, go ahead and troll. It doesn't bother me, doesn't hurt my feelings at all. But for those of you that like my art, I would very much appreciate it if you would like, comment, subscribe. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you'd like to see me draw, and if it's in my wheelhouse, I'll do it. You know, for us artists, it's usually about what we're passionate about. If we're not passionate about something, it's kind of hard for us to get in the mood to draw. Y'all know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't like Mickey Mouse, it's kind of pulling teeth to draw Mickey Mouse, right? At least that's me. And like I said, I'm going to sign off right here, and I'm going to leave the rest of this video for all of y'all to just chill out, watch it, have some fun, try to draw your own sharks. And if you draw some sharks, also post in the comments, if it'll let you, post a picture of some of the sharks you've drawn. And also, this is a realistic shark to some degree. But it's okay to draw comical sharks. It's okay to draw sharks that are cartoony. Matter of fact, if you can't draw cartoons and all you can draw is serious stuff, you might want to work on that. You know, you should be able to have fun, and you shouldn't take your art so serious that you can't do something that's kind of goofy every now and then. It can take some stress off. And if you're having trouble drawing, just doodle. The amount of doodling I do is unbelievable. It's like majority of my art is doodling, and you never know when you're going to look at those doodles and see something you want to draw later. And so I'll also have another video where I'll cover some exercises on doodling and some exercises on how to treat those doodles like clouds. So again, I'm going to leave y'all to the rest of the video just like this. Y'all take care.